Jason's getting his commercials. Jalen's getting his respect. Marcus got Defensive Player of the Year, but y'all still ended up without a chip. Draymond was still talking mess in your face. So that has to motivate them. That has to make them mad. That has to make them extra competitive in camp. That has to make guys hungry. I think that natural progression is what will make things work right. Because let's hope Tatum, Tatum's been to weddings and white parties and all that. Let's hope he is in the lab working on that left hand, because the Warriors said, make him drive left. That was their plan. It worked out. So Tatum now has a definitive weakness. Make him go left. And that was what won the series for Golden State, what made Wiggins such an effective defender. Let's see if Jason's been in the lab. Let's see what Jalen has to say. But that natural progression, Adam, of being humiliated in a sense in that series, losing 3 games in a row, when you had a chance to go up 3-1, letting go that fourth quarter, that horrible fourth quarter of Game 5, when you played such a good third quarter, and then just letting go of the rope. And then, things like that. You got to watch. It's up to them to watch tape. Just look at what you did, and that should motivate you to be better. So to me, natural progression, and also the presence of Brogdon to give them a better ball handler and better fourth quarter offense.
Yeah, I agree with most of that. I think if Boston ends up at the top of the Eastern Conference, which is possible. They don't have the best player in the conference. That belongs to Giannis. And there's nothing that Tatum could do at this particular moment that would, in my eyes, make him a better player than Giannis. But if you look at some of the stuff last year towards the end of the year, this comes via B-ball index. In terms of percentile, Tatum in the 80th percentile of passing efficiency, 87th percentile of passing versatility, 94th percentile in passing creation quality, 94th percentile in box creation, 100th percentile in scoring gravity, 96th percentile in playmaking talent. He's got to take a step up in terms of being a better playmaker and getting his guys involved more. I think as you got towards the end of the year and into the playoffs, I was just really impressed. And I fought with people tooth and nail on this. I was really impressed with how much growth we had seen out of Jason Tatum as a ball handler, as a playmaker, and getting guys involved. A lot of times he would see 2, and he's going to see 2 the rest of his life. That's just the way it's going to go, especially in the playoffs. There are going to be 2 guys coming your way all the time. And you got to be able to make quick decisions out of that, because the quicker you attack, the better shot you're going to get. And I thought he learned a little bit of that going against a bunch of really tough defenses. I think say what you want about the strategy of Budenholzer in Milwaukee, but they have some really tough individual defenders on that team, and they made things hard for Tatum. You go to Miami. Miami has a whole bunch of defenses they're going to throw at you. A very good defensive team, very smart team, and a team that understands that maybe Jalen and Jason are the best ball handlers in the world, and we have to get in their airspace and make them uncomfortable as they dribble. Obviously, Golden State watched that and just made it even harder for Jalen and Jason to dribble. So if to me, Boston takes a step forward and claims Eastern Conference dominance by Jason becoming a better playmaker and Jalen taking a step up in that category as well. I think both of those guys, the finals, as Gary alluded to, they should be pissed. They should be very angry that they were embarrassed in those games. Really embarrassing stuff. And I'm not here to pile on Tatum. I thought he was tremendous. I thought he ran out of gas. And Jalen, if you put a gun to most people's heads, was the best player on the seas in the NBA Finals. So it's not like those guys can take ginormous steps up, but if they take steps forward and start a little hotter, I think this team could win the Eastern Conference. I don't think it's set in stone. I think they are not the best team in the Eastern Conference right now, because I think Giannis, his ability to drop 45 points whenever he wants to, you're just not going to beat that. But I think if they've just not tweak, but just get better at just a few things, that and their new depth with Brogdon, I think will pan out huge. There is a path to number 1 seed in the East. They're on that path. It's just a couple of breaks here and there that will make it. And, it's going to come down to everybody. It's going to come down to health, as it is all the time. But, Tatum is very close to being, I would say, a perennial all-NBA candidate. I think he is, but, the NBA is weird every year. If he can lock himself into a top 10, top 7 NBA player, Brown not too far behind him in top 15, top 20, you'll have enough pieces around him. I think it's just a matter of a few things. And I think this team is very dangerous. I think the Eastern Conference, Gary, we talked about a bunch of stuff. Cleveland's going to be a lot harder, and they're going to be a pain in the ass defensively with having Mobley and Jared Allen in the middle to block a lot of shots at the rim is going to be really tough. That's a fun team, but I think the competitiveness of the East will bring the best out of these guys, though, because you're not going to be able to take nights off. You're just not. You're not going to be able to take nights off against teams that you've probably done it in the past against. Like Cleveland is no joke now. Atlanta is no joke now. Even a team like Washington, Orlando getting Paolo Banchero like that. There's not a lot of cakewalks in the Eastern Conference anymore. There's just not. So if you don't bring it every night, you're going to get your teeth kicked in. And I think that motivation enough should be enough to get this team refocused and re-energized and towards the top of the East. It's just going to matter in terms of health at the end of the day, who finishes on top. But as Boston proved this past postseason, this team can go on the road and win some tough games. That's not out of the question for them. So seeding always matters, but getting into the top 2 would be ideal for Boston at this point. I think it's totally possible.
So Gary, we can close with this over the last couple of minutes just to sort of put a bow on everything that we're talking about. I just think, we forget or we undervalue sometimes circumstance, right? Think about how different this conversation, a summer's worth of conversations would be, if the Bucks had a healthy Chris Middleton. There's a real good chance Boston goes down in round 2. Now, maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe the Celtics do win that series, but it's certainly not beyond comprehension that the Celtics bow out to the Bucks in round 2. And then we're sitting here today and Jaylen Brown's probably a Brooklyn Net. Kevin Durant is here in Boston. Like there's a trickle down, by one, good all-star level player's injury that could have changed the entire thing, could have sent the whole thing sideways for better or worse. Depends on your perspective out there, obviously. But I think now we are where we are. The Celtics are opening with certain things that they didn't have last year when they still advanced to the NBA Finals. There's already, buy into the system and buy into the defense and buy into Ime and, that much higher level of trust in one another. And they've added to the depth, obviously, in Brogdon. And, maybe toward the end of the year, you do get Gallo back or whatever shell of himself he is at that point coming off the injury, he can give you a little something toward the end of the regular season in theory, or they do go out and they add somebody via a smaller trade. Or a Mello, or, there's an emergence of Hauser or whatever. Ime, believes in Peyton Pritchard now more so than he, buried him the first half of the year on the bench and you never saw him. Like there's just a lot of stuff now that you do have that you didn't have 1 year ago. But I think, and it's kind of a cop-out answer, I'll admit, but because of all of that, I believe that, and this is like the great unknown every team every year, but if this team is healthy, come playoff time, if it is healthy, if it doesn't have that significant injury that it seems like annually they do, but didn't last year because Rob came back and guys gutted through stuff. If they are mostly, their important players are healthy for a stretch run and a deep playoff run, I think they'll be right there, Gary. I really do. I think the talent is there and they have the experience. We're not going to have that whole entering the NBA Finals. The Warriors collectively have, 1 billion games of NBA Finals experience and the Celtics have 0. Like none of that is a thing anymore. It's, now it's a carryover year that I think is just so incredibly important if your guys are available.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that if they do what they're supposed to do and they remain healthy and they fit into, mesh into Ime's system earlier, and I think now they were one of the best defensive teams in the league. That should continue with the addition of Brogdon. Everybody goes in healthy. There's no, Tatum isn't coming off the Olympics. There isn't a lot of Jalen's not coming off, wrist surgery the year before. Like it's all lining up, Adam. It's all lining up. But one, there's going to be a team or two that are going to be much better than we expected, or just it could be the Nets, it could be Milwaukee, it could be Philadelphia. There's going to be a team that's going to be like, hey, stop the presses. We're here and we're taking what the Celtics have, because now the Celtics are the big dog. They're the targets. They won the East, right? Say what you want about, if Jimmy Butler, our narrative is different. Adam, you talk about middle of the injury. If Jimmy Butler hits that pull-up three, Evan, in Game 7, we have total disaster, total mayhem. Like, the team is probably getting blown up if they lost that game. So, as much as we talk about the Middleton injury, we talk about Jimmy deciding to shoot for it all and taking that pull-up three. And they got through that. So now, no more of these rookie mistakes. Inexperience, like you said, is out the window. Jason and Jalen are no longer kids. As much as, like, Tatum is still young, he's 24, but his idol, Kobe Bryant, had 3 freaking titles by the time he was 24. So, like, it's time for Jason. What's Jason going to, I'll wait till I'm 27. No, man. This is your 6th year in the league now. It's time for you and Jalen and you guys are good, to take this thing over and take it home. It's the pressure's on them. The pressure's on Ime, the pressure's on the bench, the pressure's on. So let's see how they deal with it. But like you said, if everything works out, barring injury, barring, something unforeseen and unfortunate happening to them, they should prevail, because the Bucks didn't do much. I mean, they signed Joe Ingles, like they re-signed Connaughton, they re-signed Bobby Portis, but the Bucks are kind of running it back. Mm-hmm. The Sixers, we don't know what to make of Harden. Embiid's going to be Embiid. They signed Montrezl Harrell. They got tougher, PJ Tucker. But is that going to mean, are they going to, win the East? Is that enough to win the East? Brooklyn, we don't know what's going to happen there. Cleveland, I think might be a year away, but it could be now. So everybody has some question marks, including the Celtics, but the Celtics has the least question marks. And so if everything works out and they come up with the might, because I think it's up here for them, it's not physical, they should take it. Like Robert Williams, let's hope he comes to camp in tremendous shape and all his extremities are, fine. He's, over the knee stuff. So, he doesn't get a hip edema, like all these little things that happen. Like, hopefully he went to Duke University and got a complete checkup and is clean and is like, okay, Robert, you ready to play hoop? Because we haven't heard much about his recovery, because obviously he wasn't healthy, but like everything, if everybody comes back, there's no reason why they shouldn't win it.